Hello, my friend, and welcome back to the Accountable Podcast. I'm so glad you're here. And I have such a great guest for you today. She has been a great friend of mine. We connected a few years ago, and gosh, I just adore her. Every time we get to talk, it's so fun. And now you get to listen to one of our conversations. So, Christy, thank you for being here today.
Yay, Amanda. So glad to be here. This is going to be so much fun.
I know. I just love it. And, we're taking a new spin on this podcast and asking people before we all get to know you about your business and what we're talking about today. I like to ask, like, how are you wired? Because most people are seeing the evolution of what I'm diving into, and it's how our personality type impacts how we set and pursue goals. And so, if you're willing to share, would you like to share Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, any of those that you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting because for the longest time, Amanda, I just thought everybody was wired like me. And what's interesting for you listeners is that I'm also a therapist by, I guess, calling, trade, career, however you want to say that. And so it's interesting that I, at one point in time, thought that like people think like me. They don't we all think alike? And it wasn't until I like heard a bunch of people's perspectives and stories from holding space and listening to a lot of people's inner worlds and what goes on. I'm like, wow, maybe we're all different and maybe we're wired differently. And I would get confused because I didn't understand why people needed like more information from me when I was going to make a big choice. Like, can't you just come along and jump off the cliff with me? So if you know anything about the Enneagram, you might be able to guess what type I am, and that is a type 7, which means that I love just having fun. I don't like being bored. I like new adventures. I'm okay with risk. Sometimes, most of the time, if it seems like a good thing, then let's make it happen. And I'm also the friend that if you call me up, Amanda, and say, hey, I want to go on this trip 3 months from now, and I can find a way to make it happen, then I'm going to be there. Now, if you ask me to plan it, we got problems. Maybe I could do it. It's going to be a stretch for me, but I will show up and I will bring the party. Okay. So that is a little bit how I'm wired. I'm also like an ENFPJ something. It's been a minute since I've done the Myers-Briggs one, but also on StrengthsFinder. I don't know if you've ever done that one too, Amanda. Like my top strength is woo, which if anybody,
Love
do you
that.
know what woo is?
I do. I mean, I'm diving into this research, as you very well know. So I'm not an expert on all of these, but I know a little bit.
Me neither. Me neither. But woo is like the one of the only like I guess what's that when you just have a few letters? What's that called?
The
Like
Myers-Briggs one?
no, I'm thinking about the woo. It's the only one on the Clifton Strengths Finder that like they don't exactly say what it is. They just say woo. And
Yeah.
what woo means is winning others over. And I
Mm,
never realized that. I was like, oh, winning others over. Also, I have like compassion up in there. Connection, I think, is a strong one. I'm sure there's some other things,
hmm
but yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's fantastic. I love how you shared you thought everyone was the same. I think we all do at some point. Like, I don't think we're born and are like, everyone is different. Of course not.
Yeah.
But that
I
would
mean,
be,
people look different, externally
yeah.
they look different, but internally in your internal world,
hmm
because you can't know what somebody else's internal world is
Right.
like, what they're thinking, feeling, how they're perceiving the world, because you have your own set of
hmm
lenses. Like we can't just drop into somebody else's body and be like, let's check it out what it's like in this mind. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So it's really interesting when you get to hear how other people think,
hmm
their personalities, their perspectives. And I think when you are curious about how people are viewing a situation, then it gives you some insight into maybe they do have different needs than me.
hmm
Maybe they do have different ways that I need to help approach or talk about or give instruction to when I'm having a conversation with them. So it's
hmm
fascinating.
It really is. I find it so fascinating. And I'm certain as a therapist, you've experienced, like, you had those aha moments of why, like, this person needs a lot more information. That's really interesting. Of course, you don't say that to that person in that room, but it's like you're
Yeah,
thinking
no.
it, and it allowed you to see so many different perspectives and how we are all wired so differently. And it's the self awareness that once we have it, like you came out the gate, I like fun. And I can attest to this because the way in which we connected through a group. It was so fun. And you said to me, Amanda, you have to go to this event. I'm on the other side of this. I'm an Enneagram 3. I plan everything and have so many goals and all this stuff. So I was only thinking, is this a good return on investment? Is what I was thinking in that moment. And you said, you just need to come. I'm going to figure out how to get you a ticket. And you did. And I did go to that event. And now we are such good friends because of it, which is great.
That's right. That's right. And so, yeah, and I didn't even think that you would maybe be thinking, okay, let me see if my calendar is free.
Right.
Is this going to be a good return on my investment? I just met you and I was like, I think you would really appreciate and
Yeah.
really like this conference that I'm going to. Let me see if, and you were like, I think I would like to go. And I'm like, well, let me see if I can find a way to make that happen for you.
It was so good. And it really did change so many things. And meeting you, obviously, we became friends, and it's so wonderful to have you in my corner, which I love. But being in that room, being surrounded by so many other people doing amazing things, like it truly was a magical experience that I just thank you for all the time.
Well, girl, I'm so glad you said yes,
Yeah, I said
and
yes
make
to
it
the fun.
happen. That's right.
Yeah, but we really have to learn about like having that self-awareness, and then also like you run a team. You have a practice, you have team members, and really understanding the team aspect of what other people need too is super helpful. Have you done that with your team? Have you run them through like a specific assessment to help you understand how the team works?
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, about a year or two ago, we dived into the Enneagram and we got everybody just to do a brief assessment. And actually, we do a team retreat every year. And this was one of our first retreats. So this has actually been, yeah, about 2 years ago. And we had a facilitator who knew a little bit more about the Enneagram and came and part of our team retreat. They facilitated the discussion about what each type was like, what was the core fears for that each of those types, how does this show up for people? And then what are the core motivations for people in these different personality types? And it was really insightful for our team because I think, when you only experience what you know from your own lens and your story and your life in general, you forget sometimes that people have a different way of looking at things than you. And I think for our team, it was very eye opening. And what was really funny, Amanda, this was really funny. So imagine us out in this cabin esque type of place. We went on like this lake. We rented like, some cabins in the state park that is not too far away from us. And we were all sitting in the living area of this one space, right? And what was ironic is I kind of had known a little bit about where everybody fell on the Enneagram because of the assessment. I got their results back. And what was crazy that we didn't even realize until we started talking about this, that everybody that was like of a similar type sat next to each other. Okay. So like
My
all of our
gosh.
sixes were on the same couch together, right? And then the threes were kind of coupled up together. The two fives sat next to each other. The one
My
and
gosh.
the one and kind of a lone ranger. We only have one on the team at the time. But the other people kind of sat next to each other as well. So it was just crazy to see how we even sat next to sometimes our wings, which was just wild. But we don't realize that other people need things from us. And especially if you're a leader or you're somebody that is trying to get your team to go to fulfill a mission and a vision, and you're trying to get them all to go in the same direction, understanding and helping them be self-aware that I'm this way. Here's where it actually benefits me and is a strength. Here are sometimes the ways it limits me, and being more aware of that and what others need as well can really help your team
That's
a lot of
fantastic.
ways.
I
Yeah.
love that they sat next to each other. I mean, what
So
a
funny.
amazing thing to witness. I bet everyone did the same thing I did, which was like shock.
Yeah, it was so funny because they were even like, "Oh, that's you too. You have the same core fear or core emotion that drives you." And so it was crazy. And I think one of the things about the Enneagram, if you've never done it before, is there's stuff about the profile that you start to read, and you're like, "Oh, is that me? Do I have that tendency or discomfort?" But normally, if it feels uncomfortable, it's probably you. Seriously.
That's the things we need to look at with a therapist, right?
That's right. Maybe so.
That's the
Did
thing.
you read yours and was there some things about it that you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
absolutely, yay, but then some things you're like, oh,
Oh, yeah.
it's
I
me.
mean, the one it's so interesting because I've chosen a career path that puts me not necessarily in the spotlight. Like, I recognize I'm not Taylor Swift right now. Like, I'm very aware of that. But that idea of like wanting and appreciating acknowledgement of achievement I was like, no, I'm not, that's not me. Like, I just like
I do
helping
it just
people.
because I do it. I don't need any
Right.
validation for what I'm doing or some kudos. What are you talking about?
But then when I really looked at it, I was like, all right, I started a business. I wrote a book. I have a podcast. I want to speak on stages. I'm doing that. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
it's a little bit of something that's helpful.
And that's okay. And I think there's that self-awareness, but then there has
Mm-hmm.
to come to a point where there's a self-acceptance of like,
Mm,
this is who I am, and I need to be okay that this is me, And I think that that's a hard place for all of us. I haven't arrived there yet completely, but it's like the journey of not only being aware of who you are, and we're maybe going to talk about this a little bit, but like, how do you also remove some of these labels that
mm,
you've given yourself, right? But also being okay with saying, yeah, I do like to achieve things. And I
mm-hmm.
do like when people validate me for my achievements. And when they say, Amanda, you wrote that book, girl, you are winning, like, okay, I know I need that. I know I appreciate that. I know that it's not all of who I am when you have that awareness of that it's a personality type, like that. Even if I don't hit that achievement or goal that I have, it doesn't mean that I'm not enough. It just means that I really wanted to make that happen and it didn't happen in the way that I thought it was. And so I think that's where that self acceptance piece you can move into to say, like, this is who I am. I understand what I feel like I need in this moment, but I also know I can give myself that validation or that thing as well.
That's beautiful. I will accept
Yeah.
that today and, keep that with me because it is, I feel like you, like, I don't know that I'll ever arrive perfectly at that. Like, sometimes I'm like, no, like, I do love helping people. I'm not only doing it for the achievement sake of like being on the stage or whatever the case is, but I do like it. And so accepting the fact that that's important allows me to feel the success more because I'm an Enneagram 3 and I love achieving things. The problem with it's like a pro con, right? Like I can actually achieve goals pretty well. I can stay focused. I can have that motivation, all of that because of that. But also I tie it to my worth. So I have to pay attention to that. And I suck at celebrating. I am on to the
Yeah.
next. And so I need people like you in my life that are like, you wrote that book? Let's go have a party. Let's go to
Yeah.
dinner and celebrate because I just will move
And
on
and
to the
you
next
do.
thing.
You just brought up a great point. You need the people that are opposite of you in
Mm,
your life because I still need the people. Like I think about somebody that's on my team that is a 6 and I need the people to say like, here's all the potential ways that this could go wrong.
mm,
Here's the things that we really need to be able to help give people to make them feel psychologically or even physically safe. We had an issue once at one of our therapy offices because I have a multi-location therapy practice and one of them we didn't have great lighting. And when it got to the winter, I mean, we have long summers, it's long days of summer here, but when it got to the winter and we were having like later appointments, we had gotten into this new space and we realized that there really wasn't great lighting in the parking lot.
mm.
Me? Do you think I gave a second thought about the lighting of people, the safety and security? I mean, I'm not saying that I don't love our clients, but it never crossed my mind
Right.
that to make people feel safe, we needed better lighting. To make our team members feel more safe, we
Hmm.
needed better lighting. And I just kind of honestly, the 7 that I am, kind of, well, who cares about lighting? But it would took
Right.
that other person in my team to say, listen, this is impacting people. It's making them not necessarily feel like they can be safe or that they want to have sessions later in the day. Like we really need to address this lighting thing. And so guess what? We solved the problem. We found a way to get this big old light installed. We even have lights now on outside the building. And now it makes people feel safer if they're having to stay later. But that's just a good example of knowing yourself, but then also getting people in your corner that are not the same as you. It may seem hard at times, but it will also ultimately add value and help you look at things differently than you're used to looking at them. And I think ultimately it helps you meet the needs of if you're somebody who is in business, serving the clients or customers or individuals that you have. Also, your team. Your team has needs as well if you do have a team. And then what are those needs that you can help meet as a business owner or as a leader to make them feel safe in their work environment? And we're not even talk about workplace safety and toxicity in workplace cultures today, because that could be a whole nother episode. But, I think it's going to be important. And I think people, as you're moving forward, I think people are going to be looking more for psychological safety and felt safety in the workplace. But that's a tangent that I just kind of got off on,
Well,
Amanda.
I can't wait to hear more on that conversation. So whenever you have it on your podcast, because I think it'd be a good
Yeah.
one. Those types of things of like understanding where you need to fill the gap is kind of what I look at. And a lot of people listening to this podcast, some do have a team or contractors, and some are wishing that they can get there, right? And hoping to get there. And I think that when we can be self aware of what our strengths are and where we need to fill the gap, it actually helps us hire the right people.
1,000%. And I mean, honestly, self-awareness, if there is one skill you want to develop that is going to really help you grow and scale whatever endeavor you're in, it is self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to be aware. Like, I think of as my role has changed and shifted. We've talked about this, I think, when your podcast was a little bit different, right? I fell into this whole entrepreneurship thing. Like, I did not get here on purpose. I got here by accident, for sure, 1,000%. And I've learned the more aware I've become of myself, and I give myself permission to reflect
Mm.
on where I'm at, what's going on, how is this impacting me. I've learned that my organization or my team or my creative pursuits are only going to grow in proportion to the amount that I'm able to grow. And growth can only happen if you are aware of what your limitations are, where your areas that you're getting hung up in,
Mm-hmm.
where are the things that you need to learn to let go of, the skills you need to develop as a leader so you can lead a team of people and not feel overwhelmed by that. And, so I think that all starts with that piece that we keep on talking about today, and that's be aware of thyself. And
Right.
sometimes it's hard for people to look at themselves because that can be scary.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, "Oh, I have to actually look at me." Sometimes it makes you look at your past.
Right.
Some people want to bury that real down deep. But the truth is, the more you're able to open that up and look at it,
Mm-hmm.
find ways, and you might have to have a therapist, a accountability coach, somebody to help you work through that. But the more you can grow, the more the passions and the pursuits that you have can grow along with that.
I could not agree more. Self awareness is like the thing. And as soon as you become an entrepreneur, it is like that is magnified 20 times.
Oh, girl, entrepreneurship is going to make you deal with your stuff, whether you like it or not, unless you are just a really avoidant, and that's okay. We are all avoidant at different points in our lives about things that we don't want to deal with. But I will say the biggest personal growth journey you can ever take is starting a business and then finding a way to grow it. I mean, 1,000%.
Yeah, because most of the time we are doing it alone. And so if something doesn't work, if you don't finish something, if like whatever the case is, it's on you. And so that like cracks open such stuff. And then the money stuff is a whole other conversation.
Yeah. And that's it. Look, I just had because I've, a podcast as well for listeners, but I just had a person on the episode that just dropped today. We talked about the money stuff and the money mindset
I'll make
and the
sure to link
money
it in the show notes.
relationship with money. Oh, it was so good. And I'll have to connect you with her, Amanda.
Please
But,
do.
the truth is that like we have all kind of stuff. We have money stuff. We have relationship stuff, right? And we have our own mental health and emotional stuff, right? We have our family stuff. We have stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and that stuff is going to be magnified when you are doing hard things. There's no way around it. And you have to figure out how am I going to assign what I view of myself, like that worth or that value when I go through hard stuff. And how can I also give myself permission to be human and say, this is a stuck place for me. Maybe I need to get support around this. Maybe I can do it on my own. But what I've learned is what's helped me be able to grow faster than anything is realizing that's a stuck place. I need help. So I struggle with accountability. I realize that might need help. Then I might need to get me an accountability coach like Amanda, right? Or like
Mm-hmm.
last year towards the end, I was teetering on some burnout, was not taking my own advice to what I told
Right.
everybody else to do to take care of yourself. And I had a conflict in part of some of my leadership. And I knew I wasn't already in a good place, but that conflict then made me look at other things like, and that was leadership. I thought I had good skills. And then I was like, no, Christy, to lead at the level you want, you need more skills, or you need better skills, or you need more awareness. And so it led me to getting accountability and support around that. So I think it also will show you the areas where you need to grow in. And I would encourage those listening, if you're feeling one of those areas today, don't be afraid to ask for help and get support in that. Because if you can move through that, it's only going to help your team and your organization get to the place that you really want it to go.
I love that so much because something I've realized through working with ambitious women, very in particular, right, is that there is a lot of shame around getting support. And so the fact that you just brought that up, I mean, I'm sure you've witnessed this and maybe you even experienced it too. It's especially for ambitious women who are very driven and very motivated. I'm not saying this can't happen to males as well, but it's like when that is happening and you're so ambitious and you're so driven, it's like, I should be able to do this on my own. Why can't I? And therefore you hesitate to get the support. And it's like, oh, just hit the fast forward button by getting the support that you need.
Oh my gosh, 100%. Listen, and I have a mentor, a business consultant mentor who actually has been in business for like, I want to say 7 years ish. And she's on the exit of her business, right? And she's been so great in helping me like shift my thinking about stuff. But she said, Christy, I want you to think about this. She said, I have been in a lot of these entrepreneurial business owner groups, right? Whether it's like, those masterminds where we get together locally. And she says, I'm often one of the only women in the room. And she said, this is what I've learned from the males that I've been around. They
Okay.
don't give themselves any shame for getting support. She said they will have a personal assistant. They will have a secretary. They will have somebody that goes and picks up that, if they don't have support at home, they might have support at home where somebody might be staying at home and supporting them through that process. Right. And women, often we still hold so many roles of, partner. Sometimes if you have kids, it might be mother. You might be a daughter. You might be, a sister, all these different roles that we carry. And we feel that we should do it all. And it's partially because our culture says that we should, which
Right.
is crazy. But you got to think about women used to not be in the workplace. There used to not be a thing, probably even 50 years ago, a woman entrepreneur. What?
Right.
Crazy idea. Okay. So you have to think about all the roles that women have now assumed, which are amazing. Go women.
Right.
Okay. But you can't do it all. Like it just is not possible. And so our male counterparts, I'm not saying all of them, but what I observe and what my mentor helps me realize is that they, without shame, get support to help them do all of these things that may not be their strength area, may not be the best use of their time. Maybe they need to feel supported in, and they get that support. And so why not us? And so I would encourage, like you just said, get some support. If it's hard for you to like figure out what to eat, get you a meal subscription service. If you
Right.
don't know what to wear, get you somebody to maybe go pick out some outfits for you. There's like Stitch Fitch and Fix and all that other kind of stuff. Like get support in what you need to help you get to where you want to go.
I love that so very much. And I'm leaning into it more and more. And also realizing, Michael works at a company, my husband, and so I see him. And when he runs into an issue, like it's very different how he approaches, like, oh, I'll find a contractor for that or this other thing. And I'm like, yeah, the budget's different. And I understand that. And I have to recognize like my budget's not the same as his. But it's helped me realize. And the other day, I'm like so proud of this, Christy. You're going to be very
I can't
proud of
wait to
this
hear.
too. The other day, I was like, you know what? I've been tracking things on the previous podcast and I now have this podcast and I'm tracking things. And I was like, but I feel like someone's probably figured this out and has created this spreadsheet that would take me a week and a half to create. I found the best person on Etsy. I will send you her name and her contact information. I'll put it in a
Can't
link
wait.
in the show notes too. She is amazing. Her name is Allison. I found her on Etsy. She has a spreadsheet for like $34. It saved me weeks of time. I immediately reached out to her and I was like, first of all, I love what you're doing. It's incredible. I'm going to tell everyone I can about it. And one day she'll be on the podcast. But it was unbelievable. And the fact that I solved a problem for $34 that I didn't even, like 1 year ago, 5 years ago, the whole time I had the first podcast, never did that. And I solved the freaking problem for $34.
And that's where you can, again, if you are not at a place where you have the budget or the resources or whatever, and you are a solo making it happen, getting to the point or where you see the vision of where you want to go, like that is a great example of how it is no shame in nobody's game to say, like, if has somebody done this before? And that's what honestly people do. They don't reinvent the wheel.
Right.
They figure out who has created this thing that'll make my life easier, and that's actually if you're a really multi-passionate and creative person, that loves to generate a new idea and maybe do another business, that's how businesses are created. It's
Right.
like, how can I help solve this pain for this person? There's
Mm-hmm.
somebody that solved it somewhere. So if it's a
Right.
pain for you tracking podcasts and I need a better spreadsheet to help me figure out how all this stuff is doing and everything like
It's
that,
unbelievable. And it's
there's somebody that
beautiful,
created that thing
right? It's
because there's somebody
beautiful.
else with that problem.
And I
Yeah.
was like, I can't believe it took me this long to find this resource. So I'm going to lean into that more and more and more and getting that support. So one other thing I really want to get your opinion on, because it's something that I found myself saying, and I'll tell you the quick story of how I said it first, that then became something that I've said a lot because it really resonated in the moment. And those light bulb moments. And it was one of those things, and now I talk about it, but I want to get your therapist opinion and thoughts on this, because especially because we're talking about personality type and all of this, and it becomes something that we identify with. And so I was speaking at an event locally, and I was going to speak at the next lunch. And so the leader at the previous lunch said, Amanda's going to stand up and she's the accountability coach. She's going to be speaking at the next lunch. And so I wave and I say hi to everyone. Afterwards, a lady comes up to me and she says, Amanda, I'm a procrastinator. I need you. And I said, her name's Dana. And I said, Dana, you are not a procrastinator. You probably have a habit of procrastinating, but if we're not careful, labels can become limits. And I don't want that to become yours. And in that moment, I saw her shoulders drop. I saw it, the weight was lifted. And I thought, oh my gosh, she had been attaching that, like she's self-aware to know that she was procrastinating, which is beautiful, but it went a step deeper and she identified as a procrastinator. And so I'd love your thoughts on that idea of we can be self-aware, but we can also make sure it's not a limit.
Oh my gosh. And listen, I don't care how far you are along this journey, you have limits in your mind about something. So I love this conversation because I can even think about, guys, I would have never ever in a million years. Again, I did not think that I'd ever be entrepreneurial. My
Mm-hmm.
limit in the past was I'm a single mom. I had my daughter at 22 when I was in college. I've been solo on this trip for a while. Her other person did not get involved in the parenting or growth and development of this child. And, for a long time, my limit was I need a job that can provide me stability and security and
Health
insurance
insurance.
benefits. Yeah. Yeah, and so my story for a long time, I didn't realize that I was putting limits on myself because I didn't realize there were other possibilities
Mm-hmm.
for me. And it wasn't until I came to a moment in my job that I was working that I was super passionate about. I mean, I'm still thankful for my career path. It taught me a lot and I learned a lot about myself through that journey, as does our journeys. But I remember my limit was I remember I didn't leap out of the job because I had this limiting thought of I can't have a job that doesn't have benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Amanda, this limiting label, like me and my daughter, thankfully, are pretty healthy people, but that had been the label. And that's just an example of a limiting belief, but that had been the limiting belief that had held me back. I remember one day I got ballsy enough to pick up the phone and call an insurance broker advisor to see if I decided to go be a contractor somewhere or do something, how much would actually insurance cost me? And Amanda, I kid you not, when I got courageous enough to ask that question, you know what the answer was? That it was going to be cheaper. Now, this is not everybody, right? But for me, it was going to be cheaper for me what I was paying per month for insurance if I did decide to take the leap outside of this secure salaried job that was like sucking my soul, like
Mm-hmm.
literally. It had started to get so overwhelming that, I was like, I have to get out of here. And I just had to be courageous enough to challenge that
Mm-hmm.
belief. And I think that we have labels that we give ourselves. Maybe if you're an entrepreneur, I'm not business minded,
Mm.
financial. I'm not good at finances. But folks, I was terrible at math. That did not therapist math. That's two different things, right? But if we have that label in our mind that I'm not good with money,
Mm.
maybe too quiet to lead, I that's not my skill set. Then what happens is that we carry those with us and it limits us from creating possibilities. And I think sometimes we have to be aware of where back to self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
Amanda, we have to be aware of where did this label come from anyways. So when you're thinking about maybe the labels that you hold, it is thinking about like, how do I view myself? What are the things that keep me from maybe I have a vision to do this thing or to grow this thing? That's my vision. What is stopping me? I'm not this. I'm not that. I remember whenever, Amanda, I don't know if you felt this way before you did the podcast, the first episode you ever did do, but I remember before I started mine, I'm like, who is going to want to listen to me? And
Yes.
my label was, or my limiting belief was, nobody wants to hear what I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
Or other people talk about these things. Maybe
Yes.
they want to listen to somebody else. Why would they listen to me? But that was a limit, and that was incorrect, right? As you've now done right podcast,
Right.
people listen to it,
People
right?
listen.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
listeners.
listeners, for listening today. We appreciate you giving your time and ears to us today. But I think you just have to figure out where they're coming from. I was the loud person growing up, and people used to say, "You're loud." That was a label that people would tell me. Well, guess what? Now, when I speak to groups, that loudness is actually a strength. My voice projects and it's fabulous,
Yes. It
right?
is
But if
fabulous.
I would have used that label and made it a limit, then maybe I wouldn't have spoke up in places or my voice wouldn't have been heard. So we all have our things. And each time you level up a little bit more in wherever you're going, there's going to be new ones that creep up. Like, still to this day, sometimes I forget that I am an entrepreneur. Like, seriously, they're like, Christy, you've done this, this, and this. And I'm like, I just work here.
Mm.
you know I just work here, but that is a limit, right? And so I think we all have imposter syndrome at times. We all have perfectionism at times. We all have fear of being seen, or we have the fears of playing small or avoiding growth. But awareness is the first step, and then kind of trying to rewrite that narrative through your values, what you value, what actions you want to take, because action does help you rewrite beliefs, and helping to do the work to shift those can be really powerful.
I love all of this. It's so helpful to hear because I mean, it was one of those things like through my experiences with coaching people, I recognized it, but I was like, can I say this? And that's a limiting belief of like, I'm not a therapist. And I know, like, I am very open in saying my scope of work is not therapy, right? That is not what I do. And so I really try and hold that boundary and hold that line. But I really felt like in that moment, I saw her shoulders drop. And I was like, people need to hear this. So I'm going to talk about how labels can become limits. And I was like, I need to talk to Christy on the podcast to have a little bit more oomph behind it.
Well, and honestly, Amanda, think about that. That's even a label. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I can talk about this because I'm not a therapist. Let's be honest, folks. Therapist is just a skill set that you go to school for. But it doesn't mean like that you can't learn all of this stuff through the internet these days. Training used to be limited by like higher education, or, think about it. You might have like back in the way day, if you owned an encyclopedia, you had access to information
Right.
that other people might have not had, right? Well, today there's information that you can gain, and you can get all the skills and knowledge without ever getting a piece of paper. And I'm not discrediting the piece of paper. The piece of paper has opened doors for me and opportunities that I would
Mm-hmm.
not have had without it. But you can also learn things and still help people.
Mm-hmm.
And you can still learn, like you said. I mean, you know this, you do mindset work every day with folks,
Mm-hmm.
every day. So that limit of like, or that label of like, I might not be the best qualified
Mm-hmm.
to talk about this. Well, no, you do work with people every day. So it doesn't mean that like you might not have a title of licensed professional counselor or supervisor, which is what mine is. But it doesn't mean that you don't have real life experience where you've learned how to help people challenge those labels. So that's just a great example. Thanks for being a guinea pig, Amanda.
Right. I mean, they always creep up. And it's interesting, like such in real time. Like I'm talking about that topic and it comes up. It's like so interesting how it just creeps in and you don't even notice
It's
it.
so subconscious. We don't know all the time the labels that we are functioning under, right? And that's why that awareness is key, because the more when you're aware of it and aware of that narrative that is holding you back, then you can rewrite it. But if you're completely unaware of it, then you don't realize that you're living under its limits for a while. And so maybe the question to listeners today, and maybe even for you, Amanda, and for me as well, because I haven't figured this out, folks. Like, I do not have the crystal ball or the magic wand. I wish I would share it with you, but I don't. Is what label have you been living under? What limit have you been living under? And maybe who would you be without it? But like, are you ready to release it? And I think part of that releasing it is part of the intentional action behind it, because that action over time will help us. I was just listening to an interview. We were just talking about this by Pat Flynn, and he just talked about this, man, and it was so great. And he said, I didn't believe. He's like, this is my number 350th. I was listening to some kind of speaking that he did. He's like, this is my 350 something time I've been on stage. He's like, but I was just in the back ready to throw up. He's like, but I have to honestly always rewrite that limit that I'm not a public speaker, because I have to remind myself, I've added value to people. I've done this 300 and something times. I can go out there and share something that will hopefully bring an impact to somebody else. And so I don't think that once you are aware of that label or that limit, that it just gets rewritten automatically. It takes constant action to help prove to yourself that that label is invalid.
Oh my gosh. That is so fantastic, Christy. I just love that. That question of what label are we living under and attaching ourselves to right now? Are we ready to release it? That's a huge question, because the answer is allowed to be no. If it's no,
you might not be ready.
Right? It's like, if I'm not ready to let that go, then acknowledge that and move forward. But if you're like, yes, I'm ready to let that go, figure out the support you need in doing so to take the action. And I like that you're bringing in action to this, because another topic I talk about a lot is like, people want to feel confident before taking the action. And I always say, you have to take the action in order to feel confident, or else like it has to work that way, because I mean, you can do it scared. You just have to do it. And that's where the support comes in.
And at some point after you work that muscle so much, it becomes easier or more comfortable to do. Like, I think about us talking right now, Amanda.
Right.
Like, if this was my first time ever appearing as a guest, like, you might be listening and be like, man, this girl, she sounds whatever. I don't know. You might be thinking, girl, get off. I don't know what you're thinking right now. But anyways, like, it may appear that we are confident in our conversation, but that might have not started that way.
Yeah, we've done it hundreds of times.
Yes, hundreds at this point of time. So, that muscle has been worked, but I can assure you 1,000%. I'll never forget, Amanda, when I really, took this journey of entrepreneurship. I remember I was challenged to do these like little videos. This is whenever Facebook Lives were a really cool thing. I don't think they're as cool as they are anymore, but it was a big deal.
It was a big deal when we started.
And I remember I sat in my living room, and I kid you not, probably recorded for 2 hours just to try to get a few minute video.
Yes.
Like, seeming a little bit decent to where I felt like I could put it out to the world, or I could maybe do that live.
Right.
And it was probably not good.
Right.
I can probably 1,000%. But you just had to keep on showing up for yourself and saying, like, my dream or my vision of where I want to go is bigger than my discomfort in this moment. And eventually you will work that muscle to where you're like, I don't even remember what it was like to be scared in that first time that I did it,
Right. That's so true. I think about that with podcasting all the time, because someone will talk to me about starting a podcast. I'm like, oh, do it. You can do it by the end of the week. And I have to remember 2019 Amanda, who was terrified to start the dang podcast and publish that first episode, and
so scary.
Hated the sound of my voice on the podcast, which is now, I'm so thankful. I think it's like It comes back to you where people now compliment my voice on a podcast and say it's soothing. And I think it's because I needed to hear that,
Mm-hmm.
truly, because that was almost the thing that I didn't start the podcast. But now it's like so second nature. I love it. Not saying I don't get nervous. I care. So I want to present great information and I want to be a good interviewer or a good guest. So I prepare and that helps. But I definitely don't like re-listen to the thing 13 times like I did the first few.
Yeah. Well, and those small, brave steps, that is actually what builds new belief systems.
Mm,
And when you are trying to overwrite beliefs or labels or limits, however you want to define it, that you've had for years, that takes time. But it happens through those small steps. And then honestly, kind of just doing what we're doing right now, Amanda. When we get together, we have so much fun, right? Like
we
I get
do.
encouraged. I learn something. There's something that I'm walking away with, feeling inspired about, or something that I want to be more focused on. But I think
Same.
that's where getting in your mind or listening to things like this, it really can help you reshape those beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Because then you start to be like, maybe I am ready to release that. Maybe I don't want that to be my label anymore. Maybe I don't want that to be the operating system that I'm functioning my life off of.
Right.
Small steps at a time, folks. It don't happen overnight.
No, it sure doesn't. It's small steps. And those small steps feel so dang scary when you're doing it. And I think coming back to what you just said, surrounding yourself with people who will support those small steps and encourage you and going back to the self-awareness thing of knowing who you need. Some people need more of a cheerleader, you can do this. Some people need someone who's going to push real hard and say, you have to do this. We're going to do this on the call together, or whatever the case is. It's like knowing what support you need, whether it's a coach, a mentor, a biz bestie. Like you and I can get on a call and we are two different personality types, but we walk away so pumped up afterwards because, I mean, we are both extroverted. I can say that. So we do have that in common, but the idea is that we are different. We have fun because you're leading the fun. And it's very organized fun because I'm there like corralling that or whatever we
Yeah.
want to look at. And so it's like, it's a good match. So finding the support that you need in whatever way that you need it to take those small, brave steps.
Yeah, and you need those people in your corner that can, like you said, whatever you need in that time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they might cheerlead you on, but sometimes they may tell you the honest truth that you need to hear. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's an incorrect thinking, right? Like, they call out your stuff. You are living under a false label right now
Yes.
or an incorrect belief system. And you need people that can shine that light on you because you don't always know it. I'll never
Mm-hmm.
forget, and I know we're getting time to wrap this up, but there was a mentor that I remember I used to have when I was in this overwhelming job, let's say it. And I loved that job. Honestly, it was I felt like I like birthed that cool thing to life. But I realized that at some point it was not mine to continue to race. Okay. That's the best analogy I can give it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's great.
But I remember I had a mentor and we went to lunch one time and he looked at me and he said, Christy, why are you working so hard for somebody else's dream? And I didn't realize that I was living under a label at that point. And it wasn't, and there's no shame in it. It was a great learning experience. I learned so
Mm.
much in that job, especially about leadership, but it wasn't for me anymore.
Right.
But I was living under a label or a mindset that I needed to continue that. And I had to figure out a way to, and that person just asking me that one question at the time didn't make much sense to me. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
Joel, whatever. But it wasn't until later that I was like, oh, there might be something else for me, or I may have skills that I can use in a different way, So that's why you need people that can also shed light on your strengths and the things that you
Mm-hmm.
are really good at, and the ways that you are maybe self sabotaging that you don't know, because those are the people that are going to help you catapult you into your new best life, whatever that looks like.
Right. I totally agree. You need those people that can see. It's like a 30,000 foot view level. They're not in the weeds. You're in the weeds every day. And you need those
Yes,
people. I mean, I have people, whether it's biz besties, paid coaches, like I have all kinds of support in terms
all
of
people. Me
because
too.
I'm like, I need people seeing this from different angles because I see the benefit of being able to do that. Like I am that person for my clients. And it's so easy for me to see the thing where they cannot see it. And it's not because they're lack of trying. They want to see it. They're just in the day to day. And it's
You're in the weeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. You cannot see the forest to the trees, whatever that
No.
saying is,
Right.
right? Like you are in it. And so you need people that have either gone before and you need different things at different times along the journey. Like what I needed at point A is different than what I need at point D, E. And I might go
Right.
back to point A and
Right.
need that again, you know? So you have to just figure out, what do I need to help push me towards the thing that I'm going towards. The end.
The end. I love this. And we always like to give people with a next step. And then I want to make sure they know where to find you. And that really brings us to that idea of taking action. Because one of the things that you know about me is, and we've talked about today, I don't want someone just to listen. I want someone to listen and then take an action, because I know the action leads to such great things. And so today, I'm like, do we leave them with those questions of what are the labels?
That's right.
Are we willing? Are we ready to let go of that label?
To release it, yeah.
And then what support do you need? Is there anything else that you would add on to that?
No, Amanda, you read my mind is exactly what I was going to say. If you're like, Christy, what do you think? That's the thing. So you just got to start by asking yourself the questions and be honest enough to give an answer to that. Then that's going to require a level of vulnerability with yourself, and maybe others, but and you can ask people. I remember I used to ask people, like, what would you say is something that I'm either really doing well at, or something that I might be limiting myself. So if it's hard for you to answer, go ask some people that you trust, that are in your corner, that are going to be supportive and honest with you. And that might also help you get to that answer, because then once you have that answer, then you can start taking action on it.
I love it. Christy, thank you so much. I know people want to listen to your podcast and follow you in all of your journeys. So where can people find you online?
Yeah, I mean, if you want another incredible podcast to listen to, I don't know.
It's a great podcast.
Because guess
I love
what?
it so
Amanda's
much.
going to be a guest on that podcast, so that's what's going to make it incredible. Okay, it's Inspiring Possible. I mean, it is kind of it's about how do you create possibilities in your life, and how do you shed those limiting belief systems and go towards the direction of your dreams. So you can find that at Inspiring Possible wherever you listen to podcasts, or inspiringpossible.com will get you to my website, where if you want a tool to say like, oh, you know what? I'm reignited through this episode, and I want to figure out what it is that maybe I don't know the direction of where I want to go next. There is a free resource there called Dream It, Write It, Do It. It's a workbook that I use personally, probably every 6 months to a year, that I ask myself those same questions to help me get aligned with the dreams and goals that I have. And so that's a free resource you can access if you would like to.
I love it. I have used it before as well. And I listen to your podcast all the time. I'm very excited about the finances one. I'll make sure to listen to that.
And you think you met Jacente, didn't you?
Jacente
Lamala.
Yes. She's going to be on the podcast. We just haven't coordinated.
Okay.
Timing.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll go listen to that. We'll link it up I say we. Amanda will link it up in the show notes for you. But it was an incredible. I just actually re-listened to it this morning, and she just is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to, if you have some money blocks, she is the person to really help you reshape that relationship you might have with money. And money that could be a limiting. We might have limiting beliefs around money, or labels around money, that we need to release and learn how to have a different relationship with it, so that we can create whatever it is that we're going towards.
I love that. I'm going to reach out to Jacente and see if we can coordinate. Maybe I can have these released at the same time, or similar timing, so that it's kind of back to back. So we'll see. Stay tuned.
Okay.
But yes, she is fantastic. I'll make sure to link her in the show notes too. It's fantastic. Christy, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Amanda.
And thank you all so much for listening. I really appreciate your time. I know Christy does too. We are so thankful that you spent time with us today. And until next time, keep being accountable.